put that all the way in before you do any other adjustments. Otherwise, especially if you have that cap on already, you'll be adjusting your idle screw and it won't make a darn bit of difference. I found a problem. The idle is actually controlled in a couple places. I would actually recommend, if you're not super familiar with how all this works, you actually don't put that cap on yet. It is a little bit of trouble to get it on and off. This guy needs to come off. Okay, so let's talk about where the idle is controlled. First of all, it's controlled at the throttle. Whoops, let's move around this way. Okay, so we already talked about that, right? But this right here, counterintuitively, the further in this is, or maybe that is intuitive, the less throttle it has by default. So if this is out at all, hold on, let me show you. Mine was out a little bit. Well, actually, it was out a lot bit. But you probably want to screw this in all the way. There you go. You hear? It should hit that on the way back down. Figure out how much play you have in the throttle once you have your idle adjusted correctly. And then before you put everything back together, come here and just work some of that play out of the throttle. So I'm going to get rid of the play from the throttle. Probably going to do one more. Okay, I'm going to leave just a little bit of play in there because I don't want it to be at the point where it starts to pull. So I'll have it out just a tiny bit there. But put that all the way in before you do any other adjustments. Otherwise, especially if you have that cap on already, you'll be adjusting your idle screw and it won't make a darn bit of difference. Next, you've got your idle screw. And as you can see, if you turn, this is kind of confusing because you have to consider the face of the screw, which is the opposite side. So I'm going to turn it what is actually clockwise. That was actually a clockwise turn. Oops, I want to undo that because I got this just right. But if you turn it this direction, that will push it in. That is the clockwise direction, although it feels like it's counterclockwise because the screw is upside down. But turning it clockwise from the face of the screw pushes it up. It makes it idle higher. Turning it counterclockwise from the face of the screw, remember, it's upside down, will pull it out, and then it will have a lower idle. Unless your throttle is adjusted too much, in which case that will make no difference. And the way that you can tell when you've reached the bottom is that the screw will lose tension. So you can occasionally, as you're loosening this, you can occasionally just touch that with your fingernail and see if the spring has tension or not. If the spring has tension, you know it's engaged. When the spring has lost tension, you know that your problem is up here, most likely, or in the cable itself, maybe a kink or something, not down here. So that was the thing that took me the longest time to figure out. So I'd say get your idle in the right ballpark, especially if it wasn't in the right ballpark before. And then after you've got it in the right ballpark, then adjust the fuel screw underneath, which is wherever that was. Oops. Let's see, it is right there. I'm actually going to put the booty back on mine. Put the little booty on. Ooh. There we go. So there's my little booty. Then adjust that. And you want to adjust it pretty much all the way one way. Once you've got the idle about right, all the way one way until it starts to die. And then all the way the other way until it starts to die. And you want to count by half turns. And then you want, so mine was basically 5 turns from all the way out to all the way in before it started to die. So I turned it 2.5 turns, and that's the right amount. Regardless of your altitude, regardless of anything else, that's the right amount. Those are the things that are going to affect the idle. That's what I wish I knew, because I think that's the missing piece that none of the other videos really talked about. So I hope that helps. I'm gonna go put this thing back together the rest of the way. It's feeling a lot better. By the way, if you want to measure the idle, you get one of these tachometers. This one's from Tusk. The cheapest one from Tusk, the $14 one, actually didn't work for me unless I was holding it. You can watch my video on that. So that's the $20 one. So your mileage may vary. No, really no pun intended. But with mine, what I had to do was the one that didn't work, it would work as long as holding it. And it may have to do with, well, you can't see that, but I live by power lines. So maybe, I mean, power lines are about 100 feet away from me. So I think that with that, there may have been some interference or something. Anyway, I think it's all good now, so I'm going to put it back together. That's my makeshift gas tank there.